can believe and be saved and going to spend an eternity with God, but so be disconnected from the power of God right now that you're believing in vain. So the question then becomes, how do I know if I'm believing in vain? Paul is writing to the church in Corinth. And the church in Corinth was dealing with a whole lot of issues, but one of the primary issues in their lives was the fact that they were the people of God, but they had no power. And the surrounding community there in Corinth was ignoring them, making fun of them, and abusing them because the word that they proclaimed was not bearing any fruit in the lives that they lived. You ever been there? You have heard the word, but you're living your life in such a way that the gospel seems to have little power in you and me making better choices, living with a better attitude, dealing with the tough stuff of life in a way that reflects glory upon the Lord. This is another one of those moments where we all being cool, like, yeah, I've heard of those kinds of things before. You know, people not living with the power of the gospel manifested in their lives. But the truth of the matter is what? We've all been there. Living our lives having heard the gospel, but not in such a way, we're thankful to be going to heaven, but not in such a way that right now I'm a better person. Right now God can use me to advance his kingdom in more effective ways. So the serious question for us to deal with on this occasion, am I believing the gospel in vain? Not from an eternal perspective, but from a right now perspective. What I hear in church, what I read in my Bible, what I understand from what I've learned, is it really making a difference in my life? Now, whenever I ask you these questions, I'm always trying to come up with a way for us to, practically speaking, make application and answer the question, because it's not rhetorical. It is one of the most serious, real-to-life questions that we'll ever deal with. This gospel that I have heard, this Jesus that I've placed my faith in, is he helping me experience life right now differently? How do I know? Well, I'm going to tell you. Paul says, I write to remind you or declare to you. And he's saying, I see how you're living your life, church in Corinth. You're living as if you had never heard the gospel. You're living as if these are all stories made and told for entertainment, not for life transformation. So I remind you of what you have heard, so that you live differently. Otherwise, you've received the gospel in vain. So how do I know? Because if I ask, most of us will say, nope, not me. I haven't received no gospel in vain. Every time I receive the gospel, I'm doing something with it. I'm working it. I know what I'm doing with the gospel. Really? Why is the church in so much trouble then? Why is our world in so much trouble then? Why are so many individual Christian lives struggling so desperately then?